make our peony, the first thing we need to do is make our gum paste, of course, and I'm using the Nicholas Lodge gum paste recipe that's on my website, artisancakecompany.com. And I've colored the gum paste with a little bit of avocado green and touch of yellow to get kind of this spring green color. And I've put a little bit of shortening on my fingertips, and I'm going to knead that through the gum paste until it's nice and smooth and pliable and there's no cracks when you smush it. And that's basically how you condition the gum paste. And then I'm going to take some sugar flower stamens. These are just like the large head stamens that you get in the floral section at the craft store, or you can get these online. But I want to make these into peony stamens, so I'm taking some of my green gum paste and I'm going to wrap it around the tip and just pinch it till it becomes a point and just kind of let it stretch. I want it to be totally covered though, so you want something that kind of ends up like that. And then you do it to the other side, and then you just make a whole bunch of those and you let them dry overnight, and then we have our centers. So after your centers are dry, you're going to take 3 of them, I'm going to fold them in half and take some 28 gauge wire, spin that around, tighten it. And these are small head stamens. These are the pearlized ones, which you could use any color that you want. I don't get super stressed out of using like the exact correct stamens. There's so many different kinds of peonies. The ones that I'm looking at have just some like small stamens around the center. So you take a few, I think there's probably what, 10 here, and you fold those in half. Take another wire, that around. Do the same thing, do that twice. So we have 2 bunches of the little stamens and our little bunch in the center. And now we're going to take a little bit of white floral tape. And whenever you use floral tape, you want to give it a stretch to activate it, otherwise it doesn't stick. Just pinch those stamens down and wrap the floral tape just around the base and just kind of spin and pull. So those are contained. And then do the same thing to the center. And now we can take, I'm going to kind of spread these out a little bit, kind of flare them and kind of bend them backwards. Put them right here and twist those 2 wires together. And then come to this side, flare out a little bit, bend them back, put that on the other side. So now we have our peony center. So now that we have our center made, we want to go ahead and roll out some gum paste to start making some petals. And for this, I'm going to be using a small amount of my white gum paste. And I go ahead and condition it with a little bit of shortening so it doesn't crack and it keeps it from drying out. And then I'm just going to roll this just out a little bit so it's not quite so thick. Kind of a rectangular shape. And then I'm using my KitchenAid pasta machine attachment to roll this out, but you could use a hand crank pasta machine, you can use the Roma. I'm starting on 1. And then going to 2. And then all the way down to 3. And then, so I have a gum paste cover. I think this one's by Wilton. Just kind of keeps your gum paste from drying out while you're working with it. And I'm just going to cut off excess. And then I'm just going to put this excess back into my baggie with my other gum paste so that I don't waste any. To cut out the petals, I am using a few different cutters. I believe this one's actually a leaf, and I don't remember where I got it from, but I like it. It's a fun little ruffly petal, but I believe these ones are the Colette Peters brand of gum paste peony cutters. So these are the 4 I use. Any kind of ruffly sort of petal shape will work though. You just use leaves like if you had some. But the first ones we're gonna make are the centers. So we're gonna start off with the smallest size there. Cut a petal, wiggle it around, you get a nice clean cut. And I'm using a firm foam pad to do the first part of the thinning out. You're gonna take your ball tool and start from the center and sort of drag it outwards towards the edges, putting a fair amount of pressure down. And I'm basically trying to stretch out this petal so that it's nice and thin, right? So that's what the firm pad is for. And then we put that onto the soft pad and take your medium-sized ball tool and start from the tip of the petal and drag towards the center, and that ruffles it. And then lastly, we're going to take our big ball tool and just right in the center, give it a little kiss. And we're going to take our 28 gauge wire, dip it in a little bit of water, and then we're going to hold this petal between our thumb and forefinger and just gently slide it into the gum paste. And because you're going between your fingers, it shouldn't poke out of the gum paste. So your fingers just basically keep the wire from poking out. And then I am putting this onto my petal former, which is just basically a bunch of plastic spoons that have been glued to a cake board. And I have plastic wrap over them just because my spoons have been sitting out and I don't want them to get dusty. And you just put that into the spoon and it just cradles it perfectly and makes your little petals. And so I'm going to do the same thing with our medium-sized petal and our large. And my large one, I'm actually going to put into a pan that is just like a mini cupcake pan with a sheet of the plastic wrap over it, and that just is kind of like a little bit larger of a cup to hold the petals. The amount of petals you need for one large peony is 3 small, 4 or 5 mediums, and then 6 or 7 large per flower. And you can add more petals if you want to. Try and work fast when you're doing these gum paste flowers, because the faster you go, the less chances you're going to have of getting any cracks or any drying out. You can see I'm going fairly quickly, and because this is, it's a flower, you're going to have to be real particular and delicate because it's nature. You want your petals to be kind of crazy. That's a good thing. You can get these foam pads from Nicholas Lodge's website, along with stamens and different types of floral wire, floral tape, just pretty much anything you need for a flower you can get on his website. Okay, so then you let those guys dry overnight. If you're in a humid area, it might take a few days for them to dry. But basically, once they're dry, they're like this. You have nice firm petals. So this is Rolkem Super's champagne color. It's kind of a nice like pinky color. And I'm just going to put a small amount into the cap and use kind of like a fluffy brush. And we're just going to dust the end of the petal. This is just going to add like a little bit of depth to our petals. And you could do this in pretty much any color. You could do it in purple or pink or red, blue, yellow, orange. And you could color the gum paste ahead of time if you wanted to. If you wanted them to be a different color, I just wouldn't recommend like really coloring them super dark colors. I would just like color the whole batch of gum paste. So we take our center, we have our large petals, we have our mediums, we have our smalls. And we're going to start with our small petals. We're going to carefully take the wire and just bend it just a little bit like that, so that our petals kind of sticking out. And line that up with the base of the stamens and just carefully wrap that wire around. Try not to break your petal. Just go all the way around. Got our 3 petals on, and then we're going to do our medium size. This one I did 3 medium-sized petals because that seemed full enough to me. So you don't have to like do more petals just because I say so. Just do as many that looks good. The last one is our large petals. Just try not to put these, try and give them a little space away from the stem so that you have room to kind of maneuver them, if that makes sense. And you can add, like I said, more petals if you want to, but I feel like that's full enough for what we're doing. We have our finished peony. So you don't want to ever put just raw wires into your cake. So the way that we prep this to go into the cake is I take a toothpick and just kind of shove it kind of into the wire center a little bit. And take my floral tape, give it a stretch, and just wrap all that wire up so that there's no wire showing. And the toothpick kind of acts as a guide to poke a hole into the fondant or the cake or whatever. Now we have our finished flower ready to go in our cakes. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. and I'll see you guys next time.